But first, let me tell you a little bit about the organization and the movement. I Am Cameroon was founded in 2003 by Areo Benson, and it has now grown into a full
First,
organization.
let
Let me tell you a little bit about the organization. Okay, I think we got a little feedback there. Um, all right, can you hear me? Here we go.
Yes.
Fantastic. So a little bit about the organization, as we said, founded in 2003, and its main mission was to educate, inspire, and engage Cameroonians to assume and accept responsibility for the future of the nation. And you see, the vision was for all Cameroonians to take ownership. We're going to play a video to kind of give you an idea of what we're all about and a means to get involved. Our website, I am Cameroon dot org, and we also have social media handles, and you would see a little bit about us during the course of this show. We've got a wonderful panel for you, and we can't wait to introduce you to our host, Mary Noel. But first, Pedro, let us just show our audience a little bit about some of the things we're up to.
We just did. Please go on.
Oh, thank you. All right, fantastic. I will call on Marie Noel, our host, to introduce the panelists and to all of the board members here. Sally, I've got Clarence, welcome. So we will pass it on to Marie Noel if you can come on camera and introduce the panelists, our farmers, our agriculturalists, the heart of our economy in Cameroon. Marie Noel, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marie Noel. I'm the host for today, and you're all welcome to this wonderful, wonderful episode of our show. We usually do this every second weekend, every 2 weeks, and today is one of those great days that we're talking about something fantastic, agriculture. Agriculture is one of those things that in Cameroon, while growing up, we looked at it as poor man's business. We looked at it as something that is meant for the villagers and the inferior people. But today, we're realizing that we're totally wrong about this impression because agriculture is the top, if not the toppest of all of them that will bring us the income and make us busy and make us reschedule and rejuvenate our lives the way we want it to be. Now, I have two panelists. I'm not sure if one of them is here yet, but I'm going to introduce to you one of them. And this is no other person but Mark Henry Kamga. Mark Henry Kamga is an engineer and a biotechnology leader. I would like for him to talk about himself a little bit more so we can understand him better. Please, Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Marinol. It's very interesting that I was asked to be a panelist in agriculture. It's something I'm very passionate about. I don't think I'm doing as much of it as I should at this point, but I'll be happy to share my thoughts and my experiences there too. So, as Marino said, I'm a biotechnologist. I live in New England, USA, Boston, New Hampshire area. I've been here for about 15 years now. I work in um, biotechnology manufacturing. So I produce recipes that I use for multiple as therapies for multiple ailments. Whether we're talking about Alzheimer's, cancer, muscular dystrophy. So the company I work for, we manufacture this for the markets for clinical trials and for commercial uses. Um, I hold a PhD from University of Massachusetts in chemical engineering, but my passion is really around entrepreneurship and investments. And I don't do a lot of like US based investments. I put everything I can in Cameroon. So I invest all of my energy and time investing in businesses that I own with my partners, but also in businesses that I think um, are very helpful to the economy, have a potential to create jobs, and all of that. So I'm very passionate about that. Um, My main project now is FAMFA Global. We own a school called FAMFA Academy in Cameroon. That's probably what takes up a lot of my time. It's a kind of a new school that we started in 2022. It's focused on education for talent and character. I think we can have a whole discussion around that. My experiences there to um, we've invested a lot of money into different businesses in Cameroon, spanning from education, technology, logistics, transportation, and agriculture, especially. I grew up in a farming family. My dad was a public administrator, but he took an early retirement and focused on agriculture. So all my childhood, I spent a lot of time with him, um, traveling, working on his farm, managing the business. When he passed away, I continued running it up until today. So I have extensive experience in various aspects when it comes to agriculture, and I'll be happy to talk about those too. So that's about it.
Wow, that's a very rich resume right there. You have a lot of experience, and like you just said, we're not going to dwell just on farming and livestock, but some of the other things you mentioned, we
Mhm.
just call on you in once in a while to chip in what you know and your expertise in them. And today we know our focus is mainly on not just farming, but livestock. That's what our focus is. We're trying to unlock the opportunities we have, knowing that so many people, when they think farming, all they are referring to is going to the farm and hoe and and plant crops and harvest and stuff like that. But this specific 3 episodes from today is going to be dwelling on livestock, which is a big deal in Cameroon and which so many have not unlocked so far. So I'm hoping that from your experience and from those who are here today, because it's going to be an interactive session, I'm hoping that we might learn 1 or 2 things and start building our livestock farming skills after this um, after this what do you call it?
Discussions.
Yes, yes. So going straight away to the questions, I'm going to ask you. The first thing I would like for you to know is what is your long-term vision as a farmer?
So I think it's mostly food independence. Um, when I talk to a lot of people, Cameroonians, there's this statement we always make, and we say there's a lot of food in Cameroon. Cameroon is blessed with a lot of food, right? However, there's one thing that we never established. True, we have a lot of food, but what percentage of our income are we spending on food? And if you compare that to the US, you see that Cameroonians spend a significant portion of their income on food, on feeding themselves and their families. So, how can we bring that down? Because that's why other things suffer. That's why healthcare suffers. That's why education suffers within the family and all of that. So, if we can bring down the costs significantly for the average Cameroonian in terms of their food, that plays a big role in unlocking the other things that we need to invest in as individuals, right? So for me, it's like, how do we get to food independence? How do we reduce how much we need to import, and how do we reduce how much we spend to feed the average Cameroonian?
And looking at that, have you had any ideas of how we can go about that? Because I know
Yes,
we always say Cameroon is food, food, food. You can't get into
yes,
a Cameroonian's house without eating food. So,
yes, yes. So I would be very eager to hear the experience of other people who ventured here, but my personal experience, the one thing to unlock it is scale. And when I talk about scale, I talk about mechanization, right? So, how can we move it from a less labor intensive and more um, controlling the supply chain driven kind of approach? What do I mean by this? So, if let's say you wanted to do a poultry, I would not advise somebody to say, let's just go buy some birds, start a poultry, feed them, harvest, and sell. I think that if we keep doing that, we're not solving the fundamental problem. We need to control the whole supply chain, which means where does the feed come from? How do we reduce the cost of the grain? And if you're still going to be using hoes and machetes and forming ridges by hand, there's no way you're going to bring down the costs. So if someone who's just running a poultry, they have to buy grain and produce feed. It costs a lot of money to do that. So the cost there is still high. What that means is that you need to bring in tractors and produce grain at 10% the current cost, or at least half the current cost, right? And then you move from there. Now you have a supply chain. It's also protein supply, because the chickens don't just feed on carbohydrates. They need some kind of protein. So now where do we get it from? It's like rejects from like people who we know crawfish, right? Janga. Those who we know it, they get it from there as part of the protein source. That's still very basic, which means that we still need to have a good protein source. Whether we're talking about soy or we're talking about animal protein, we still need to apply some kind of mechanization to bring down those costs. Now you get into the farm itself, right? How do we design the farm? I saw some very ingenious designs recently around cleaning, where they had like a belt where they just turn it every day and it moves all the waste out of the way. And so you had two people running a very large factory. So how do we bring in technology even there to make sure that we kind of reduce those costs, like in terms of those people? And then now the last part of it, which is like the marketing, right? How do we shore up our supply chain so that we can harvest at the right time, we can store properly and release to the market slowly, so that we have kind of control of on prices, right? So if you don't do that, what happens is that at one point you have a lot of chicken and people have to dump it and they are ready to take whatever you can offer because they don't want to make a loss. But 2 months later, you can't eat chicken because there's none in the market, right? And then we go through this cycle. You see that a lot with so many products from Cameroon. We're talking about palm oil, peanuts, anything is very seasonal, and the prices keep fluctuating. And some years are even worse than others. That's because once it gets from the farmers, they have no choice. They have no way to store it, to process it, to save it. So there are no warehouses to take care of that. Whether we're talking about cold rooms or even just canning, like canning tomatoes and stuff like that. So you go into the market, sometimes you see these women, bam, sellers dumping a lot of food they cannot sell. That's a waste. And so it comes back to cost, right? At the end of the day, somebody has to pay for that. So it's either the lady or the bam salam man or woman who is losing, or the farmer is losing because next time they don't want to order as much because they're worried they'll not sell it. So we need to be able to control the whole of that value chain, and it starts from the inputs and then the operations itself, and then what happens after that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cameroon agriculture is our backbone. That's for sure. We know that. It employs over 20% of the vast population, and we cannot deny that. Now, let's get to livestock. Livestock. Why livestock?
Yeah,
I know livestock farming, it plays a pivotal role, not only in enhancing food security, but also in driving income generation and promoting rural development. So why livestock?
Well,
Can you hear me?
yes.
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 Oh, Mr. Derek is here. Maybe he can introduce himself.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Can you hear me?
Finally,
Yes.
Mr. Tansy Derek is around. He
Hello.
finally, Cameroon with all its challenges, we are happy he could get to us. Thank you very much. Derek, can you hear us? Derek?
Hello.
We can hear you, Mr. Derek. We can hear you.
I'm not sure he hears us. I'm seeing a pin against his name. What does that mean?
Pedro has put him on screen. Pedro has put him on screen so he can. So he's on screen
that's
now.
why.
Yeah.
Okay, but he seems not to hear us. Derek,
maybe we can type something in the chat for him to just maybe I'll type to ask him to introduce himself.
Mr. Tansy, can you hear us? Yeah, it's like in limbo right now. Okay. While Pedro, please can you help us fix that? And while he's go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say while Pedro is sorting that out, because the network is really a problem. So while sorting that out, we can continue with that
I can't hear any voice.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do.
Oh.
Yeah, while Pedro is taking care of that, we'll just continue with McHenry. McHenry, thank you for stepping up. It was a last minute thing and you decided to jump in and now you're saving the day. Thank you so much. While livestock, that's what I asked before. Like I said, livestock is very pivotal in enhancing our food security. But why livestock in generating and promoting rural development in Cameroon?
Well, the fact that it's delicious is definitely a good point on its own. I think just being a good protein source, right? I think is probably the strongest argument for it, right? It's a good protein source, and you need a very balanced diet. So that's that's probably one of the most important things to do when you go into agriculture. We can't just have carbohydrates, we need to have a good protein source. So that'll be, and then it's very profitable too, so it can be very profitable, let me put it that way. So it's, from a business perspective, it made sense. From just a policy perspective, it also makes a lot of sense, and then from the nutritional value is also there.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay. I'm Mr. Samet Tansi Derek.
I
cannot hear
Derek,
you, but I will
can
just
you
go
hear us
ahead
now?
and try to do my presentation. I cannot hear any voice. I don't know what happened. I'll just go ahead and present myself. I'm calling from Cameroon. This to present a paper on the future of agriculture in Cameroon, unlocking the opportunities and tackling the challenges in livestock farming. Okay, so I may just be hearing you or reading your comments. Thank you. I'll go ahead, Mr. Tavi. Thank you so much. Okay, so my introduction is as follows. At least put the video.
How come he can't hear us? This is going to be really hard because he'll be just, I don't know, he's just going to be talking. And
what I can do is I can moderate him
Okay,
on the
I
phone.
can't hear you,
He
but I'll
is
just go ahead and
he
present
is
the paper.
he's texting, and
Okay.
I can moderate him on the phone.
yeah, because if not, he's just going to keep talking and
agriculture
talking
in
and talking.
Cameroon, unlocking opportunities and tackling challenges in livestock farming. My introduction is as thus. Agriculture remains the backbone of Cameroon's economy, employing 70% of the population. Within this vast factor, livestock farming plays a pivotal role, not only in enhancing food security, but also in driving income generation and promoting rural development. As the nation strides towards modernization and economic diversification, livestock farming stands at a critical crossroad. With rising demand for animal products and increased focus on innovation, the future holds great promise. But this great promise can only be achieved if the current challenges are effectively addressed. This article, or I would say this paper, explores the existing landscape of livestock farming in Cameroon. That will be the first thing we'll present. And two, the emerging trends shaping its future and the strategic interventions needed to unlock its full potential. So these three, we'll present them in this paper. So we'll start with the current landscape of livestock farming in Cameroon. Okay. Livestock farming is an integral component of Cameroon's agricultural economy. The country boasts a diverse range of livestock, including cattle, goats, poultry, pigs, and sheep. Cattle, particularly in the northern regions, are central to livelihoods and cultural identity, while poultry and pig farming are growing rapidly across urban and suburban areas. Livestock contributes significantly to the national GDP and the protein needs of Cameroonians. However, much of the production is still dominated by traditional small-scale practices characterized by low productivity, limited access to veterinary services, and weak market integration. While modern practices such as intensive breeding with D, fedlock systems, and commercial processing exist, they remain the exception rather than the norm. Okay.
Miss.
So it's gonna be so hard because he cannot hear us at all.
Yeah, I've texted him and asked him to pause for a question. So if you pose a question, I'll text it to him.
Okay, so do you want me to just read the question for you to type in?
I'll type it in. I'll type it for him.
A quick question. Is it possible, TM, to just let him know to maybe jump out and then join back in again?
Yes.
Or join on his phone. Oh, I think he's
yeah.
He's muted right now and he's talking. He doesn't know.
And he's still reading. So we might wanna.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him. Can you ask him? Okay. While we're waiting for him to come back and continue with his presentation, I'll go back to McHenry. McHenry, we were talking about livestock. We know very well that livestock. Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we
can hear you.
Okay,
McHenry. Okay, yeah.
Okay, McHenry, let's go back to you. We know very well that when we talk about, like I said before, when we talk about agriculture, most people just think of food produce in Cameroon, but we do have livestock. And when we're talking about livestock, most people they turn to look at the northern side of Cameroon for livestock. We don't look at it from every other provinces. So how do Cameroonians in general view livestock farming, other than the northerners that we mainly focus on because of their cattle and sheep and all that?
Yeah, I think if you talk about the north, it's mostly around cattle, right? It's mostly around cattle, but livestock is not only limited to cattle, as Mr. Derek was mentioning when he was talking. So you have pig farming, which is huge in the Western Province, particularly around Chang and Buda area. I would say a significant portion of all pig products are coming from that area, right around Chang, Buda. But there are significant farmers also in center and littoral who are there. Then you have poultry, where the larger scale farmers are also really west and center and littoral, but you do have a lot of smaller farmers scattered all over the country, right? So there you're talking about, when I talk about large scale, I'm talking about anyone having probably 10,000 birds and above, right? But if you're looking at smaller farmers who tend to run between 100 and like 1,000 birds at a time, and remember, this is a 6 weeks thing, right? So you get the birds in, you feed them, 6 weeks later, they are ready for the market. So a lot of the smaller farmers tend to focus mostly around the major holidays, right? So Easter, they'll put in birds 6 weeks out from Easter. You would have things like Christmas. You have things like 20th May and things like that. So they'll target those days and put it 6 weeks out. So that's why you see that around those days, you might have an influx of livestock products in the market, and then it kind of freezes out, and it goes back to that price issue. So I think it's not necessarily focused on the north. If you're talking about cattle, yes, but then if you're talking about pigs, you come further south to the west and central region. You come around poultry, it's kind of scattered around with the major players around west central littoral area, right? And then obviously there are goats, which are like probably 80-90% north, and then a little bit again, you see a little bit in the western province, mostly around the Buddha area, and then sheep is mostly around Bamum area, right? So that's where a lot of the sheep products come, right? So it's kind of scattered all over. So it depends on what you're talking about and where you're looking at it. But I would say that when it comes to livestock, I struggle to see any major players south, east, and anywhere east of Yaoundé, probably nothing happening there. As you move a little bit closer to southwest, you might see a little bit of poultry, very few goats, very few cattle, very few pig farming, very little pig farming happening around those areas. I think you're muted. Sorry, Marinwell.
Thank you so much. I know you're based here in the US, yeah, right?
Yes.
And you still carry out your farm work. Did you still do farming here in the US?
In the US, no. In the US, no. In Cameroon, yes, but in the US, no.
Oh, but right now you're doing farming in Cameroon, even though
Yes,
you're
I
here
am.
in the US.
Yes, yes.
And any livestock?
Yes, yes.
What specifically do you do?
I do goats right now. So I do
mean, for
goats in the
livestock, what do you rear?
goats.
Oh, goods. Okay, I thought you
No,
said both. Sorry.
no goats.
Okay, so you do goods right now.
Yes, yes.
So you have like, is it like a huge industry for goats, or it's just something you do?
No.
Because like you mentioned, most people do this seasonally. Like when
Yes,
it's Christmas time, they rear chickens because they know they're going to sell them and make their money. And after that,
yes,
everything is dead. So for
yes.
the goats you're rearing, is it something you do all around the year, or it's just a seasonal thing as well?
So let me preface that by saying that I personally own goat farms, two goat farms, but I'm also involved in investments where we do poultry and also snails, right? So I'm invested in those. I don't do the day-to-day running or development. I'm just an investor in those, right? So when it comes to the goats, when I saw the video that was posted on our forum a few weeks back, I was very jealous of that guy because that he was living my life that I wanted to be living, right? I started off probably about 6 years ago, and I grew to about 300 goats at my peak, but now I've lost almost all of my farm down, and there's a lot of learning that has happened. It may seem sad, but I'm very happy with the lessons that I've learned. So it's something that I'm restructuring now to restart all over because there were some fundamental issues that I completely misunderstood as far as the market goes, which I learned the hard way. And then now I need to fix those issues if you need to move forward, right? Because there are some structural issues, and if you want, we can talk about those issues here. But there are some fundamental issues that were there with my whole concept, with how I understood how the market would work, how I understood how even running the farm would work. So I learned the lessons the hard way, and I lost a lot of my goats. And then now I'm down to probably like 50, but then I plan to ramp it up again and change location.
I'm so sorry to hear that, but
Oh, it's fine.
every disappointment is a blessing, and we
Yeah.
fall, we grow by falling, right? So,
Yes, exactly.
so you probably going to be the best experience we can gain from that fall, because
Yeah.
you've learned a lot from it, and you can help to educate others so they don't follow the same path, right? I heard
Yeah.
you mention something about snails. Did you say snails?
Yes.
I know
Yes.
recently I've never eaten snails in my life. And
Me neither.
we
Me
always
neither.
look at it like, oh, that thing that crawls nyamangoro and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But recently, I ate snails prepared by one lady. The way she made it, since then, I think I've been buying snails. And I've seen so many people importing snails to the US right now.
Yeah.
So how do you rear the snails? How do you preserve them? How do you sell them? Or is it just a limited, quantity that you make just for your household?
Yes.
For
So In the snail, I can talk about it, but one of our members happens to actually be running it, Delphine. She runs it on a day-to-day basis. So she can probably speak with a lot more expertise here than I can. But the way it's done is that you have built-in pens, and so you have the snails in there, and you have to they kind of stay in there, and they are fed and they are moved as a function of size. So the when they hatch, when you hatch them out, you have to take out the adult snails and allow the eggs to hatch, and then as they grow you kind of move them out and you change their diet also. And then before you get to market, you take out the snails and put them in free range, right? So you put them under free range conditions. There they can eat as much as they want, and that fattens them up and gets them ready for the market. So I think Delphine can really give the details here. That in snails, I'm just an investor, so I don't, I'm not there on a day-to-day basis, like looking at how the details run. I can answer a few questions, but it will not be to the same level of detail that Delphine will be able to provide.
Okay, thank you
Marine
very much.
Noel, I have a comment in the chat that somebody wants Mike Henry to share the lessons he has learned, if that could help someone else looking at investing in
That's
Cameroon.
exactly what I was about to ask him.
Mhm.
Yes, Henry, McHenry. Is
Mhm.
it McHenry or just Henry or Mark?
Whatever comes easy to use.
Okay. Okay, McHenry,
Mhm.
please. People are going through a lot
Yes.
doing this farm work, and people,
Yeah.
when we usually know that when there is already a blueprint that works, there's no point
Mhm.
for you to start trying to fix your own things. So
Mhm.
don't fix what is not broken. If you've tried it and it failed, and what you're doing right now is working, can you tell us some of those lessons that you learned and some
Yeah.
of the things that you will not want to for anyone to get into?
Yeah. So the first thing, the first thing you have to with goats, the first thing is really around location. Location matters, right? The way I say it is that goats eat a lot. They eat a lot. They need a lot of grass. And so you need to be in a location where throughout the year you have access to good vegetation, right? Good vegetation for them to eat. That is that's probably the most important thing you need to do. Now, even if you're in kind of one of the tropical areas, you still need to figure out the water situation because you need to invest heavily into irrigation, right? Now, if those were the only two challenges, those are solvable, right? You can pick a right location, and you can, make sure you have water to both for the goats themselves for their consumption and also for to irrigate your farms. But it doesn't end there. I think what caused the biggest issues with mine are two big things. One is access to healthy kids. What I mean is that goods that you're buying to rear, right? There is no place in Cameroon where you can go and buy healthy young goats for the purpose of rearing. So what we did was that we went to market and bought. So it took us like 6 months to realize that people don't sell healthy goats. So if a small farmer has because the prize goats are like you need one or two he goats, and then you can manage, you need very healthy, productive female goats, right? Now, the price is the female goats, all around the female goats. They're what you want. Healthy female goats that reproduce twice annually and they give birth to healthy kids. Now, it's very hard. People who sell, they never sell their healthy goats that reproduce regularly. What they do is sell the unhealthy goats that they want to get rid of to invest in the healthy goats. And so if you're going to the market and buying, you're not buying goats that are good for reproduction. You're buying goods that people are getting rid of because they want them to be killed and cooked, right? And so you don't have access to that. Now, when you're buying from several different people, they are coming with different issues. Some of them are sick, some of them have infections, and all of those things. Now, I did do my due diligence and hired a government certified veterinarian. And I told him when they come in, you need to give them a broad spectrum antibiotics, you need to do their vaccines, and then you need to isolate them for 2 weeks before you bring them into the herd, right? And I was paying this guy regularly, both for the medication and also his salary. But then I kept losing goats. And so one time I went to Cameroon and I said, what are you giving these goats? Like, it doesn't make sense that you're giving them broad spectrum antibiotics, you're giving them vaccines, but 2 months later, half of them are dead. Like, what is happening? Can you show me what you give them? Right? And then he pulled out of his bag and he handed me a sachet, and I looked at it and it said vitamin B12. I was like, this is not, this is not a vaccine, right? And so I was like, this is not a vaccine, this is not an antibiotic. What are you doing? And of course I had to fire him, but then I went now and started looking for source these things myself, and I realized that you cannot, because a lot of them need to be refrigerated. So they're not available in any store in Cameroon. You go to small sellers, you cannot find it. What that means is that if I need to do this at scale, I need to find a way to source these things either from Nigeria or from the US or from Europe or from somewhere else. I need to find a way for them to get to Cameroon, be stored in that under cold storage conditions, and I need to find a way to get them to the farm and to store them in the farm so that I can use them regularly. So the healthcare side of it, and the unavailability of healthy goats for the purpose of rearing were the two main things that sunk me, right? Those were the two main things. Now, I was really happy to, one of our members reached out saying that they do alfalfa, which is, grass that is very healthy, very good for goats. I'm happy to see that people are doing it now on a large enough scale that it can ship to you, you can buy. But, as I said, you could solve the problem of vegetation by irrigation, you could plant grass seeds, but those two things, having access to healthy goats for the rearing purposes and the medications that they need on a regular basis are the two things that you really need to resolve. Yeah.
So before I ask you the next question, just for clarification or just for my understanding, did the guy you hired, was he doing that out of ignorance or he was just using you? Which of them?
It was a little bit of both. So I think, so what I realized was that when it comes to the vaccines that are given to livestock in Cameroon, the government imports this once a year. So they import it large scale once a year. And they actually do a good job of providing it for free. It's supposed to be free to anybody who has a farm, right? So all what you need to do is to register your farm with the Ministry of Livestock, and they send people to come over and do the vaccines for all your animals. But it happens once a year. What that means is that if there was an animal that missed that input at that point, and you go to the market and buy it, then you bring it to your farm, there's no way of solving that problem, right? So now it's not available. Rather than tell me the right thing is not available, let's find a way to source it. He just went and found whatever he thought would work. And for him, vitamins are the thing that he'll give. So it was a little bit of both. Obviously, he was trained. He knows that the vaccine is not available. He knows that what he's giving is not any kind of broad spectrum antibiotic. But he thought, I don't know, maybe it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of both. I never really interviewed him. I was just so pissed. I was like, okay, yeah,
that was so funny. But just from what you've said, it's really tricky in a sense, because I mean, most of those people in Cameroon, they're ignorant.
Yeah,
they're actually ignorant, so they don't even know what the healthy goats are. You know what I mean? So it's not like they even have a knowledge of how to breed these things, because they just do what they see and what they know. So from what you're explaining right now, I understand that you must have those.
So one thing I need to correct is that the farmers know, right? So the farmers know the healthy goats and they know the unhealthy goats. They know very well. They know the goats that are sick.
Oh, they just keep them to themselves.
They keep them to themselves. And so what I realized, what I did in the long run is that I approached the farmers that are major players that have probably 50 goats and above in the region. And I told them, okay, I want healthy goats, but I don't want them now. Whenever you need money, come to me. And that's how I got some of the best goats I got, because they don't want to sell normally, but then maybe it's rentrée scolaire and they need to send the kids to school. They need some money. They'll come to you and say, okay, I can sell you these 3 goats. And then you buy at that time and you get healthy goats, right? Or maybe they have some financial issue and then they're willing to sell. So that's why I say it's not consistent. You cannot plan for it because you just have to wait, right? So, but clearly buying from like the market for the purpose of rearing, out of the question. It's not good. And then the second thing also about buying from the market is that a lot of the goods that you see in the market come from the north, right? They're adapted to the warmer climates in the north. And so when they bring them further south with the heavier rains and everything, they have a window which the vendors hope to sell them to be used for food. So they really don't bring them there for long-term rearing, which means that if you're buying goods from the north, you need to have a good acclimatization program where you acclimatize them slowly to the weather. That's why if you take goats from like Adamawa, which are very good, healthy goats, and you bring them to the southwest, within a year you lose all of them because they come into that colder, wetter weather and they cannot survive.
Yes,
Thank you very much. I think Derek is here.
Yes, he's here and he can hear us and he can speak. So maybe he can add.
Did
Yeah,
he just
go ahead.
disappear again? Oh, yeah, he's here. I can see
He's
him.
here, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Derek, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, so now you can hear us, and
Yes, I can hear
it was
you
funny
guys.
because you were just talking by yourself and we're just listening and could not intervene. And I'm so sorry, network in Cameroon is what it is. But now that you can hear us and you can answer questions, we've been talking about livestock, and I'm pretty sure that you've been hearing all what Mark has been saying. And I won't. We're working on time, and we're almost getting there. So for the purpose of time constraints, I will not want you to go through all what you were supposed to do, just to briefly summarize to us some of these things. And I will ask these questions to you. So maybe that will help you to just briefly tell us exactly what you think. So about livestock, I know you are a farmer. I know you do a lot of farming since after your university days, because there wasn't any way for you to get a job. And so you jumped into farming and it's paying you today, right? So
Yes.
looking at livestock, what would be the most important tool you would recommend to livestock farmers in order for them to multiply the animals safely, the animals they raise safely?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And I'm happy to have joined the interactive part of it. I am going to start by saying that there are softwares used in farming that I would recommend going back to the present day life in the world. Everything is being done by artificial intelligence tools. So is farming. And the greatest artificial intelligent tools that we'll use is the artificial insemination. I know you are a medical practitioner and you know much about insemination. The same thing is done with animals and is actually the best that anybody farming livestock should use, because it can multiply your produce in a very short space of time. One male pig or goat or cattle can produce even 1,000,000 female cattle using the skills of artificial insemination. So I would greatly say that anybody, because they call me every day that they want me to help them in livestock farming, I would say that before you prepare for your livestock farming, you should look for tools that would facilitate artificial insemination. That way you multiply your produce very well. And then other softwares like artificial intelligence powered farm management and transforming livestock and transforming the livestock, because it also helps in monitoring. There's a sensor that also helps in monitoring the health of the animal. So please, those two things, try to get them, especially tools like tools used for artificial insemination. I would recommend that greatly. It will increase your farm very fast.
Thank you, Derek. Talking about artificial insemination, we know that with humans, that's an expensive venture if you want to carry it out. Is it that cheap to do that with animals?
It's not really as expensive, depending on the investment you want to put on the ground. Somebody wants to put about 30 cattle on the ground. Frankly, in Cameroon, a good bull costs about 500,000 francs CFA. I think to put in that artificial insemination tool is not going to be more than 4 or 5 million. Let them just go on search look it on the net and see what tools they can use depending on what they want to rear. I think that is the way
That's
we will have to
kind of
go with innovation
interesting.
and
Mark, have you
technology.
heard about that for animals?
No, I didn't really venture into artificial insemination. I think it's a very interesting proposition here. I focus a lot on more free range rearing and allowing them to be, to be a little bit free. But I think in terms of productivity, Derek is absolutely right that if you really want to drive productivity and control growth, it might be a very worthwhile investment to look into. I think I
Yeah.
agree.
And if I can make a comment, artificial insemination is what is happening in the
Right.
US.
Mhm.
For livestock as well.
Mhm.
Um, and so it is really interesting to hear about it. But my comment is, if you do not have the money to buy a bull, can you go to a farm? Because I saw that McHenry was a little concerned about people not trying to sell their good goats. But can you go to a farm and I'll ask Derek this, and whether that's a
Into-
healthy bull,
Yeah.
and pay to
To
extract some
inseminate them.
sperm, carry it to your own farm for your females. You might have a farm with no bulls. If you can go and borrow, sperm from different bulls in different farms, how does that work in terms of transportation? Is it even possible?
Is it even possible? I mean, you're talking about back home, right?
Yes. Is it even
That's
possible? That's why I
that's
ask, is
gonna
it
be a
even
very
possible?
Yes,
that's gonna
Correct.
be
yes,
very
I think it's
challenging,
possible.
which is a
Yes,
good
it does.
idea. Yeah.
Mhm. I think it's very possible. Or in case you don't want to borrow, because I know many people do not like borrowing, just go and get one bull, one male bull from there, and then take it to your farm. Instead of getting 10 bulls or 20 bulls, which are expensive, you just get 10 male bulls or two or even one, and you start with it and you reproduce the others.
Another thing which I was able to do also was some people rent you the good bulls, right? They could rent it for a period of time for you. Now,
Right.
the concern there usually from the person renting is like the health of your stock too, right?
Mhm.
But if there is trust between you, people, you have the same systems. Sometimes they rent it to you for a month or 2 weeks, and then it comes in at the right time. When a good quantity of them, and then
Your
it
females
doesn't.
are ovulating. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly, and then they take it back. But again, it's always risky, right? Because you don't know what you're exchanging between the farms, but it's possible. I have rented like he goats before.
Yeah, and talking about that, we can see that this dwells on trust, on man on man. Those are the kind of things that will work perfectly well in the scenarios. What about somebody who really wants to invest in farming back home? What produce or what products would you guys recommend for them to invest in today in Cameroon?
So,
This question goes both to McHenry and to Derek.
Derek, yeah, let me go first. For me, and I think Derek can speak better to this. For me, I think in general, because as I said in my intro, I'm involved in many things outside, even outside of agriculture. This is my advice to anybody investing in Cameroon. One, do it big. Don't say, oh, I want to get some 50 goals, some 20 goals. Don't go down that path. Like what Derek said, if you want to go, look for partners who are thinking like you can raise significant capital. So if you're going in, you're investing all these things, you're investing into your irrigation, you're investing into your supply chain, you're investing into your vaccines, you're investing into the artificial insemination technology, you're doing all these things. And most of us will not be able to do it on our own, right? So get partners who think like you, raise a lot of money and go big. Because when you do it at a small scale, you run into all the small issues, right? Like Derek is saying, if you can go in with all these technologies, you have your supply chain secured and all of that, it guarantees better success in the long term. And agriculture is the one thing that is not taxed. So at least it's a little bit better than all
Oh,
the other things
really?
that require.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
you
that.
don't. No, yeah, the only thing in Cameroon that you don't pay any taxes. So no tax official can come to your farm and say, "Where is your patent?" It doesn't work like that. They don't do that. Now they might come and ask your health might come, um, animal husbandry might come, but it's just for inspections. It's not like you have to be paying any taxes. So.
Okay, Derek.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. Henry has actually spoken very well and has actually exploited all the lines. But I have to add that, and it's very risky going to take it from farm. It's always good to invest in what you want to build on, because when you go and take it from another farm, that farm may have a particular disease that does not you cannot actually see it at the at real on real time. But those diseases are they bring significant economic losses to your farm, like the African swine fever and the foot and mouth avian influenza. The African swine fever has been destroying animals for so long here in the country, and we don't have the veterinary the veterinary the veterinaries that can really handle it. It's when it comes to your farm, it actually destroys all your investment. So please, it's better for you to get a few bulls and then you go in for the artificial insemination, as Henry just said, and then you are sure that the other bulls that come from somewhere which may carry the diseases will not come and contaminate your farm. At least your farm is secured for the time being. I'll be very
Thank you
happy.
very much. Thank you very much, Derek. I know you couldn't start from the beginning the way you wanted to, unfortunately, but we're running out of time. We have just 7 more minutes to go, and we should be rounding up this program at this time. And I know, Derek, you don't just do farming, but you also rear honey.
Yes, yes, you are right.
Okay,
You are
so
right.
that's one thing I keep seeing you do, honey. Before you used to put them in big containers, like all these drums and all this I
Yes.
don't even know how to call them, but I remember there was a time I wanted you to send some to me in the US, but carrying those things is pork and it's heavy. And so I saw recently putting them in, you did some sachets, plastic sachets.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting to me. And I was just like, it's easy transportation, it's easy to export them, and it's pure natural honey. How do you do that? And is that something you are really planning to
Ah,
exploit more and get investors to partner with you or something like that?
yes. We have already actually, thank you, Madam Moderator. We are already in the process doing it already. As you can see, a few here. If you can see me well, I have a few on this plate here. So we actually do them on with quantities of 10, 15, and 20 grams. Initially, it is very portable, and you can send them everywhere. But there are a bit of procedures to do that. You have to get international licenses, which is not difficult to get, and get a good partner, which could help you get the friendly eco-friendly materials to put them inside. It's not expensive. It's not expensive to do that. But in agriculture, as you grow on, you need some partners to encourage you and push you to do the right thing. So we are already doing it. I have some sachets here. These sachets, you have about 10, 20 grams container. One is good for a cup of coffee. Already buses that travel between Douala and Yaoundé very early in the morning, they use it because they give about 200 cups of coffee to their clients every day. So we are working on it and see how we can get the best eco-friendly production for them to be seen. Because
Oh,
safety
wow.
is everything that really
Interesting,
entails.
interesting, guys. Interesting. So, guys, you've heard this two people, and I'm not sure about Henry. Henry, do you need investors, or you just doing your stuff by yourself? Just throw in some last word for us before you leave.
Well, yeah, it's always so. This is what I'll put. I would like to get in touch with like-minded people who see things the way I am and the way I see it. But I think at this point, what I want is people that can come in and we can have the conversations around fixing the issues before we put in more money into it, right? So if you want to connect, please feel free to connect with me. Let's talk. I think that it's not like putting money tomorrow. It's more like how can we work together, fix some of those structural issues, and then we make an investment maybe a year out where we've kind of put all those investments in place. Because like someone said on the chat, solar, all of those things, we need to order those things, we need to get them in place before we bring in all the investments. The one thing I have a lot of is land, right? I have a lot of land, so that is sorted out. So what we need is not land. So we have land, and it's just like those other issues that we need to solve.
Thank you very much. And back to you, Derek. Is Derek there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm there, man.
Okay,
I'm listening
back
to
to
you.
you,
Thank
Derek.
you.
Guys, you guys have heard him, and someone was asking if you've had any experience with the AI, artificial insemination thing. Have you had any experience with that yourself, or is something you are?
Yes, I actually did. Medino, the Northwest Development Cooperative, Medino, they actually have a gadget like that they use to encourage farmers in the Northwest province multiply their cattle and many others. So I visited one of their farms in the Northwest province at a particular moment. So I saw it, and it's effective. It's actually, the effectiveness is without speaking.
Oh, wow.
It's perfect.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And you've heard them. If I don't know if you guys have platforms. Henry, do you have a platform? You can put it down in the chat. Derek, do you have one? You can put it so people can join your platform and see how the conversation can go from there. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining us today.
If I may, just before wrap up, if I may.
Sorry?
If I may, just a quick word before you wrap up.
No, I wasn't gonna wrap up. I was just
sorry.
trying to wrap
I
up
think
this
you're wrapping
session
up.
and jump back to you guys to do whatever, and Ms. Tabe is gonna wrap up completely. So go ahead, Nick Clarence.
No. For me, just two things. Firstly, I really want to commend both of our amazing, inspiring guests today, Mark Henry and Derek. I think both perspectives, I found it very, very super insightful. And I do want to say a big thank you for coming on the show and sharing your insights. I think I really like, especially the resiliency. I think, like Mark Henry said, in this endeavor and in most endeavors, it's not about falling down, as we would say. It's about not waking up when you fall down. And I think we all would stumble and we all would fall. But I think the difference is people would fall down and wake up and keep going and not giving up. And I think I learned very clearly today how that can be very impactful in such an area, especially like in Cameroon, where things may not always go as smooth as we always want. But that's also true in every industry, that there are times that we're also going to stumble and fail, but we learn from those and we move forward. And I think those learnings are very insightful with the resiliency that, like my friend was sharing. So I thought that was very good. And I also like the part about scale. What I was going to offer, McHenry, maybe it's a thought, but also I'm very interested. So I think you spoke about scale quite a bit, and I think I can appreciate how scale can make a big difference, even in the industry I work. We do see how competition that have scale, they make a big difference, especially in China. And that's how they're able to beat some of the manufacturers in the US because of the scale they have. So I do have some experience with scale in this area, and my background is also in supply chain. So I definitely like to connect with you to see how I can both help from an advisory board standpoint to support your endeavors, especially on supply chain management, and also potentially to also invest. But that's something which I'm really inspired in your vision and what you're doing. I really want to applaud and commend you and offer that you can count on my personal support as well.
Yay! Did you get that?
Thank you very much.
Clarence has always been a big guy. Yeah, I got it.
So you got investors who are interested in your work. So just share your views and get in contact, and it's gonna happen. Now, I would just like if anybody has nothing else to add to this, I know Mark talked about Delphine. Delphine, we might want to bring Delphine in another session for the snail thing. So we'll get Delphine's contact and get in touch with her so she can really talk more. Today, it wasn't a day for her, Mark. So we'll get in touch with Delphine. Just let us have a contact and that will happen. That said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here today. Thank you for listening to us. And thank you for your very important questions you asked. And thank you for the two guests we had today. Your insight has been impeccable. We cannot thank you enough. We just want to say, keep doing what you're doing and keep educating most of all. Keep educating because that's the essence of it. So many people don't even know what to do. So if you keep educating them, they will not stumble. They might stumble, but not as bad as you did, Henry, because you already have a blueprint of how to fix this thing. So keep educating and educating and educating. And I think will make Cameroon a better place. Thank you very much again. And I'll call on Ms. Tabe Mase. Please, can you wrap up this session for us?
Thank you, Marie Noel. I cannot thank our guests enough. You've heard it. So let's wrap up with some key points. I Am Cameroon a couple of weeks ago presented Finances EcoBank, how you can transfer money to Cameroon, how you can set up accounts in Cameroon. So for investors, we've set a platform for you to figure out how to invest in Cameroon and how to gain your partners. The last show was on solar panels, and you heard McHenry saying that the problem we have is after we've done all this work, we have no way of storing not just the food that we have, but the vaccines that we need for livestock. So we don't depend on the government just once a year. That is engagement. That is taking responsibility for our own country. So with that, if you are truly interested in what we do, what we bring to you as Cameroonians, please join us. It is really easy, www.iamcameroon.org. Join us, be a partner, just be in the organization so you can get newsletters from us. You will know which speakers are coming. We are taking responsibility for our country. You are Cameroon, and I am Cameroon. So thank you all for joining this show, and we will see you again in 2 weeks for another inspiring show. So please join I Am Cameroon. It is at a nominal fee, but be a member. Be a member. And I know those of you in America, you know NPR, this is our membership run. Be a member. We're looking for 100 new members. I Am Cameroon, www.iamcameroon.org. Log on and be a member. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.